Life is like a game show. A deep dive into the 21 game show rigging scandals will not be seen tonight, so that we may bring you this breaking news presentation.
What the hell? I'm being preempted by news.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
There's some kind of 2021 game show scandal that I need to know about or something.
Yes.
Well,
Yes, there is.
funny you should have mentioned that because
Yes, on the big news today, right? Moving on, after 8 years with Team Solo Mid, Bjergsen has announced free agency.
Brian, wrong show. We did that already.
Also, get your ass on the camera.
Wrong.
Camera.
Look, I cannot control the freaking tri-oval things in, it's the producer's fault.
A, you just did. B, again,
I'm having to move this camera like something like crazy, right? Like there is no good, like that's probably about the best I could put the camera where it keeps me somewhat in frame.
Well, I will say, for those of you who just listened to the deep dive of the first semifinal between T1 and Damwon Kia Gaming on League to the Max or whatever, thank you very much. And thank you for coming back, because good afternoon, good evening, or whenever you happen to be listening, this is Life is Like a Game Show. I myself am Eric Watkins, the two voices that you have just heard with this announcer spiel, Brian Espinoza.
Hi.
And the man who was infuriated by the news of that announcer spiel, Jonathan Nielsen.
Would this have anything to do with, by any chance, this image that I got on my Facebook today? Cue the visual.
Well, you could say that, because Alec Baldwin is so screwed.
How
screwed is he?
People are ready to shoot him with a blank.
Some might consider this beverage in bad taste, but at least there's not a white Bronco involved.
Now,
hey, the joke may be bad taste, but the beverage is good taste.
Now, for those of you who are not watching us for whatever reason, and that's okay, and prefer to take your podcasts via oral persuasion, he just drank some orange juice. OJ. Yeah.
Especially for
the editorial staff here at the W2M Network take no responsibility for the very crappy and or possibly insensitive jokes that you may hear on this podcast this evening. You may direct all editorial feedback to s.garmer@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to the W2M Network.
As a certain someone who's on assignment would like to say, the views and opinions of, fuck it.
Yeah. So, that's all I know about this. So, if somebody could read me in, because for once, the guy who's supposed to do
the guy who talks too much, the guy who talks too much doesn't know or doesn't have anything to say. Oh, I'm sorry. Did we not say the views and opinions bit a few moments ago? Oops.
Let's just roll with it at this point. Again, like many shows, which I somehow coincidentally happen to be involved in, rails, where we're going, we don't need rails.
A lot of stuff in this podcast.
And as has become tradition, I'm eating my dinner on air once again.
So, as a man who is not talking with the full mouth, because in my realm that's someone else's job, I present to you this.
Wow.
I present to you this. The Alec Baldwin situation. You're
Okay.
wondering.
First of all, hold the phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's one burning question on our viewers' minds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why the hell is a game show podcast talking about Alec Baldwin?
Funny that you, as your dear and faithful viewer and or listener, should be asking that question. Well, Alec Baldwin, for the past couple of seasons, has hosted the star-studded Match Game Sunday nights on ABC as part of the summer fun and games.
There you go. Now that we have properly established the reason why we're talking about this, you may continue, sir.
So, as you know, there was a very, very tragic incident on the set of the movie that he was filming, which he stars in and is one of the producers of Rust. Western movie they were shooting out in New Mexico. It's very unfortunate because what was supposed to be a prop gun with proper blank ammunition, the ammunition wasn't blank. There was in a scene pointing and testing with the gun. It misfired, and unfortunately,
It wasn't misfired. He intentionally fired it.
You know what I mean, though, with this case. He fired it, but thinking, okay, this is fine, this is safe. The assistant director who handed him the weapon said, cold gun, which means it's not loaded.
So there was no truth, and there were consequences in New Mexico.
Brian, remember what I was talking about earlier?
I no monkey. It's good, but not monkey worthy.
I'm not giving it the monkey, but remember what we discussed earlier.
Yeah. I thought I was on a roll earlier, but yeah.
So he had pointing the gun at like the camera and whatnot. He fires. Assistant director gets shot. Director of photography, unfortunately, gets shot fatally.
The way I understand it is the director of photography was standing either in front of or in close proximity to the camera, and the assistant director was right behind her, and the round actually traveled through her into him and then out of him, and fatally injured her and critically wounded him.
Double through and through. Thankfully, he survived, but
my understanding is this was like a 38 revolver, like high caliber, old fashioned revolver. So heavy cartridge, definitely has the capability to inflict that kind of damage.
Well, now I feel like shit for that humor earlier.
Yeah. The beauty of live reactions, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, I did not know the details.
I may know a thing or two about firearms for reasons that we will not discuss here on this podcast. But yeah, no, somebody clearly, whether it was the armorer, whether it was the assistant director, people on set, whoever was controlling access to that gun at the end of the day, there's definitely a failure to follow basic firearms safety procedures, right? The number one thing when handling a firearm, I don't care if it's live, dead, cold, hot, loaded, unloaded, whatever, right? You never point a firearm at something that you do not intend to destroy, right? And you also always have to be completely aware of what's behind your target, right? Because that's collateral damage, right? If you're using a high velocity, high cartridge round or high caliber round, you very much have the capability to go through your target and hit something else, right?
You're exactly right. And there's a lot that's been brought up about this. First of all, time traveling back, 1993, the set of the movie The Crow. Those old enough to remember Brandon Lee, yes, son of action movie legend Bruce Lee, who was killed on the set in a very similar manner, accidental discharge of a firearm. That was the first thing to be brought up. And if you thought those comparisons were bad, there's a lot of backstory that has come out about this very movie, Rust. Number one, for those also in the know, the IATSE, you're talking the top Hollywood union.
Yeah.
Right, for Hollywood set workers, things like that. They recently voted to go on strike. Safety conditions.
I don't think are they on the strike authorization vote went through.
Mhm.
They're supposed to be voting on a new benefits package that has been proposed, but a lot of friends of mine, because I'm pretty decently connected to folks in the Atlanta film industry, thanks to my work with Dragon Con TV and my own television background. A lot of the rank and file, from my understanding, are actually not in favor of that agreement, but that's more on that later.
As of 2 days ago, via quick Google News search, IATSE and studios reached tentative area standards agreement deal, according to the Hollywood Reporter. Basically, their contract. Yeah, turn your mic back on. I'm pretty much done tonight.
So, even with all of this simmering around behind the scenes, because of, again, minimum standards, wages, safety, all these things like that, you had a lot of IATSE members walk off the set of Rust for these similar reasons. And again, Baldwin, the actor, everything was kosher. Baldwin, co-producer, in the mix as far as the people at the top trying to cut corners, trying to get everything done because they had skin in the game. That's your first red flag. Because of this, there were people who came in who were less experienced, non-union, to try to get things done and move things along. One of these critical people was the armorer. There were, and as Brian mentioned, several violations of protocol. Number one, the armorer on the day this happened was not on set. There was somehow live ammunition along with the blanks on the set, whereas the weapons were locked up, the ammunition was not. Also, as part of major IATSE protocol, you do not grab weapons off the armorer's cart. That is a tremendous no-no. Get another strike. That's exactly what happened with the assistant director in this case. Grabbed the gun off the cart, handed it over. Plus, even though you're saying cold gun, they're not loaded. The guns were also not properly tested offset on a range, also as part of IATSE protocol.
Now, I know we're talking about IATSE a lot here, and I'm not disparaging the union by saying this.
No. This has nothing to do with the union.
We're
not against the union.
Well, I'm not. Well, what I'm saying is I'm not trying to promote scab work.
Right.
I have quite a few friends of mine who would have some words to say with me if I was.
Right.
But this is a low budget production film, right? By IATSE standards, by like anything you look at, right? This is not a movie that was intended for standard theatrical release. at least from what I've been able to uncover through my own research on the topic. And some of these folks, while they may have been non-union, they weren't like scab labor. They were just folks that were looking for a low budget production to get the necessary experience that they have to have in order to apply to become union. Because if you look at the IATSE and other similar television and film union requirements, a lot of them do have, hey, you have to have, so many movie credits or so many verifiable hours under your name before we consider allowing you to have membership, because otherwise anybody could go and become a member, and their voting and all, how those unions work would get completely fucked up, right?
Yeah.
So just because these folks are non-union doesn't necessarily mean that, they were, bad, so to speak,
Yeah,
right?
well,
Because
and
a lot of folks will, especially with IATSE being in the news so much right now, and everybody's like, oh, well, these must be scab workers because the union's on strike. This is a production that's been going on for, several months, like well before the IATSE strike, right?
Right.
And, a lot of these folks, I think, and maybe I want to give the armorer a benefit of the doubt. Maybe she's new as well. Maybe she's not part of the union. Maybe she's trying to get her necessary film credit or whatever.
She was inexperienced. She was non-union as well.
But I would like to sit there and believe that, these folks were, I want to hope that they were professionals and that they knew what the hell they were doing. And, that they weren't just, picked up off of Craigslist for lack of a better term.
And this is the whole thing. This is why, in this particular case, with this particular movie set, you have that issue, because it wasn't just the issue surrounding the strike. It was around the treatment of the workers from the producers on the set. And especially there were reports of Alec Baldwin being one of those demanding producers and whatnot. And that's another key reason that led to the walk-offs of the set in this case.
Yeah, no, I'm doing some stuff here. My understanding is that the criminal, like the investigators have not yet ruled out criminal charges against Alec Baldwin right now.
No, not at all. Because if you look at how everything happened, and he was pointing at the camera, and another actor who was on that set and there that day said, hey, not everybody was being treated equal. His words, they were looking more after the camera equipment than someone like me. He's come out and said this in a couple different interviews. So have something like this happen, it's a chain of events that can go entirely wrong. And that, unfortunately, is exactly what happened in this case.
So we had a chain reaction?
Brian, I might need your help in voting on that one.
No.
Okay.
Sorry, it's a serious topic. I'm trying to liven with humor here. We're still an entertaining podcast. But
so apparently, so talking about the armorer, right? Hannah Gutierrez Reed. Apparently, she's her only other movie experience that she had was a movie that had Nicolas Cage in it. And apparently Nicolas Cage stormed off the set because she fired a gun without warning. And allegedly the live ammunition that she brought onto the set was for target practice, according to police. But I don't know how true these are, but I have been looking through Twitter to check it to see if there's any like crazy updated news. But I do see a comment on from somebody as well. Apparently, she has a boyfriend with an aggravated DUI charge.
And not to mention, even on top of all of that, We mentioned the assistant director, Dave Halls. This isn't the first time that he's been linked to something like this. Number one, even on the set of Rust, there were previous reports of other accidental discharges with the different weapons. And there was the idea going around that maybe production would have been better being shut down while they investigated, because this was the third separate incident just with this film. And with Dave Halls, this is not the first film where he's had something like this happen. There's been more reports coming out that Dave Halls was linked to the injury of a 74-year-old actress on the set of another upcoming film, Freedom's Path. And I believe that was the movie where he was fired. Yep.
Yeah, I saw that he was
that
fired. Yeah, I was gonna say he was fired off of his previous production after a gun incident injured a crew member, and that was the movie production company told that to CNN.
Hey, Brian.
What?
I feel sorry about throwing this bottle at you last week, because you know who deserves this bottle? All these people on this damn show deserve this bottle thrown at them instead. Seriously.
Yeah.
The writing's been on the wall with this amount of, from what I'm hearing tonight. Oh, yeah. Let Congress hear about this shit and start enforcing some. No, you got guns on a set. You're going to follow these protocols. There's going to be standards and practices associated with it. Party like it's 1959, bitches.
I mean, hey, if the NRA wants to open up and yada yada.
Talk about segue into things that won't be seen tonight.
This gimmick will be seen tonight.
This gimmick infringement will be seen tonight. Please send your kudos to whatever the hell JTN's Twitter handle is.
At JTN 2002.
Should probably update that in the doobly-doo.
So, with all of that, that's what's been going on and what's been happening and all the reports that have come out over the past week or so. In a nutshell, it ain't looking pretty. It ain't looking pretty.
So here's my question. Since we've pretty much brought up to speed everybody on this one. What happens to ABC's The Match Game? Do they find a new host? Or is this show getting the axe?
Well, we were discussing this. Alec has mentioned he's pausing everything. We've seen him. He was at the memorial for Hanya Hutchins, the director of photography who was killed, with the family, doing all these things. From what I have seen, he's been cooperating with the investigation thus far. I do not know otherwise, but he has come out and said everything else, timeout, pause button, including Match Game. The only remote silver lining about this is it happened at this sort of point in Match Game's off season. For them being a summer show, you would expect them taping mid to late winter, then having the shows like ready to go. So this wouldn't affect that taping. Yeah, so this wouldn't affect that taping schedule yet. But same time, here we are sitting. This is going live just before Halloween. That February schedule, you got 3 months. Anything can happen in 3 months. So I honestly think ABC is just like, you know what? We're going to step back. We're going to see how this plays out. If it starts going one way or another, we will adjust accordingly.
Because you know how it is trying to find a game show host nowadays.
Yeah. I don't know.
Just
maybe
saying, you got 3 candidates right here.
we play to some key demographics, and we have time on screen and stuff. We'll even do, the blind tests and everything else.
Yeah, apparently Baldwin right now is holed up in a small, tiny little town called Manchester, Vermont.
Ah, Bernie Sanders' neck of the woods.
With his family.
I mean, it makes sense, but it's also a little bit suspicious because what's the first thing you always hear police tell you in a situation like this?
Don't leave town.
How is he able to leave town and especially go all the way up across the country to Vermont?
And if I remember my oddball geography correct, there's some places in Vermont that are close to that their Canadian border. There's some towns in Vermont that really straddle that border.
You're absolutely...
Parts in Canada, parts in the U.S. Border checks are not... this could get ugly.
And while border checks are loose, remember, even though you have those towns that straddle the border between the state of Vermont and the province de Quebec, the U.S.-Canadian land border is still technically closed. So if anything were to happen, that would be yet another incident because the border does not officially open until the 8th.
To steal a phrase from Harry since he's not here. Dun, dun, dun! Dramatic reverb.
Again, two-person bit with that one. Just saying. See, you even got Brian shaking his head as he's doing his research. So have you come up with anything else interesting?
Apparently the budget was about $4 million.
Damn! Now, because
super low budget.
Yeah, I might be misremembering this.
Ken Jennings could have funded this fucker.
Maybe. He's getting better. He's
won $5 million. I mean.
Also, apparently, Alec Baldwin has ditched the beard that he grew out for this movie.
Well, of course. I wouldn't want to be seen with that thing.
I'm imagining at this point it means it probably not fit. I mean, even if, I wouldn't finish the movie, right? Like if I were you, I would cash in on the insurance on the movie, take your loss. It's a horrible tragedy because it is horrible tragedy.
Absolutely.
Bury the movie, bury everything. Maybe you release some of it. Because it's the director of photography that got shot, right? Like,
right.
Showcase some of her last work, but obviously the movie's not getting finished, right?
No, and which was the studio that was behind this? Was it Sony Pictures Classics or was it another studio?
I don't know.
Because that's one of the things that's never been mentioned. So that's why my own personal curiosity.
20th Century Studios and TSG Entertainment.
Okay, so this is the independent subsidiary of Fox,
and it's also being done through. I think that's the distributor. Hold on. The production company is El Dorado Pictures, which is Baldwin's own company.
Okay, so it was his own production company, but 20th Century was the distributor. So
I'm thinking so, yeah, because when I Google it, it says production companies, 20th Century Studios, TSG Entertainment. But I can't find anything that confirms that, and it doesn't say that on Wikipedia. Let me see if I can find it on IMDb.
Remember, academics, Wikipedia, not a credible source for you.
And while we have that, we have a comment here from Trump Eats Shorts, who's commented before. Well, let's hope Alec gets jail time. Should have tested if the bullets were real. Number one, yes. Those tests and everything should have been done. And if you notice with blank ammunition compared to live ammunition, there's a little bit of a different look to it. But again, armorer not on set, a lot of levels of protocol were breached. And about the first part of that comment, as Brian has mentioned in some of our offline chats, hashtag Alec for prison is trending.
There was.
Number 2, thank you for being the first commenter on a live recording of Life is Like a Game Show. That is the first one we've gotten in the whole run of the show, yeah?
I believe so. Might be the second, but from the same person. But speaking of that and going off of the username, I feel a wonderful segue to an interesting extra little bit and bob of what's going on.
Is this perhaps a squid bit?
No, not a squid bit. Proper segue because, again, Donald Trump Jr., who is at the moment being sued for a t-shirt that he made. And this is why I kind of... Now you see why I pre-screened some of the bits of humor ahead of the show. I'll just say this about that shirt. All it says, guns don't kill people. Alec Baldwin does.
I have to quote a wrestler right here by the name of, I think it's Ron Simmons.
Yeah. Yeah.
So according to IMDb, it's a slew of production companies. The production loan was provided by a company called Bondit Media Capital.
Okay.
And the distributor is a company named Highland Film Group, which...
Hey,
I'm trying to see if there's any notable movies they've distributed, and I don't see any. Just looking at their first page on IMDb.
Well, I'm going to their website.
At least it's not Endemol.
Yes. Or Fremantle, for that matter.
Sounds like a burying in right move to me, but more on that next week.
Did somebody say something about Endemol? At this point, I'll self-deprecate with that. That way, y'all can't use it against me.
Oh wow! Okay, I am.
As far as the whole Alec getting jail time thing, it's difficult to say, right? I'll be honest with you. I'm actually not in the camp of folks that think that I don't think he deserves jail time, right? Like maybe he does have to face criminal charges for negligent discharge. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, he should have been trained and versed in firearms. If he was going to be handling them on a set, he should have at least known how to eject the magazine or check the chamber, because he's using a revolver in this case,
especially
to see if the weapon is loaded. Right? If the weapon is loaded, then he needs to call the armorer over and say, "Hey, you said this is cold. This gun is loaded. Are these blanks? Can you confirm this?"
Especially since he's handled weapons in scenes before. Go back to an episode of 30 Rock. So he's got some experience in this.
I think the true negligence, especially the more and more we hear about what's coming out of this set, is I think if anybody gets charged with anything serious, I think it's the armorer. Because the armorer is responsible for the guns on the set, right? The armorer's the one who loaded them. The guns were in the armorer's possession until they were handed to the actor or the assistant director, who then handed them to the actor. Because from what I have heard, I don't know how true this is, apparently the armorer was barred from being on set due to COVID-19 protocols.
Which is a problem in of itself.
Yeah. Like, the armorer was handling the weapons, made them ready. I guess they were put on a cart, and then the AD was supposed to handle them directly to the actor, which, from what I have heard, in a traditional movie, that doesn't happen, right?
No,
I have not worked on movies. I know more about television than I do about movies. But
and that goes back to what I said earlier. That is written in protocol. You don't grab weapons from the armorer's cart. The armorer hands them to you.
You know what I see coming from this? And no, this is not purposely a segue to next week, but I do see one of these in the future of this whole debacle.
Completely agree. I completely agree.
Something like a congressional hearing.
Or may not turn into a 47 USC 509 all over again.
But there's something like this, somebody's got to be answered to, because again, with Alec Baldwin, the actor, accident.
Which is what we were supposed to be talking about this week, ironically enough. But
yeah, Alec Baldwin, the producer. Something's got to happen, like with the other producers, and we mentioned like Highland Film.
And I think if Alec Baldwin is going to be held accountable, it's in his producer role,
absolutely,
not in the he shot the girl, however tragic that may be, role.
Yes,
right. Like, I think he faces. I don't know what the law specifically is for Arizona or New Mexico, wherever this was. Most states have negligent discharge laws on the books. That prevents people from going out and doing dumb shit with guns. Like, you're not necessarily firing them at someone, but you're firing them either in an attempt to cause damage, in an attempt to disturb the peace, etc. I wouldn't be surprised if Baldwin had to face some sort of criminal charge for that.
New Mexico State Law, Section 30-7-4, and if they wanted to up it, Section 30-2-3.
Negligent discharge?
Well, the negligent discharge is 30-7-4. 30-2-3, if they wanted to step it up, that's your negligent homicide. I don't know if they will. They have said anything's on the table.
I think the armor is probably, and again, all folks are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. I have to say that. But especially for those of you who know me personally. Especially for those of you who know me personally very well.
Also, in the case we have any international viewers.
I think the armorer is the one that gets charged with negligent homicide, right? Like, it's pretty clear she brought actual live ammunition rounds to the set. I saw some pictures on Twitter as I was doing some research a few moments ago of her posed with various revolvers and Western-style rifles. It appeared that they were probably, if I had to take a guess, I haven't really seen too many pictures except for the aerial ones of the set, but it looked like she was posing with those weapons on the set of the movie. I'm imagining, as unfortunate as it is, it sounds like this is just a nepotism hire that was a really inexperienced girl that had absolutely zero business, at least with her age and mentality, handling firearms, much less firearms on a movie set, right?
And again, even with the amount of rounds, if you were talking maybe a handful or a couple dozen, you can understand one or two being mixed in, but it's something that you could fix. 500 rounds.
From what I'm hearing,
rounds, and that were a mix of them. Blanks,
yeah, I was going to say it was a
yes.
mix of. So you could have grabbed a round, and if you're not trained in firearms, then you could very easily mix up, a blank from a dummy round from an actual live round. Especially if you're talking about pistol cartridges, right? Rifle cartridges are a little bit more difficult to fuck up, right? Like rifle cartridges, you're missing the bullet on a rifle cartridge is a lot more pronounced than on a pistol cartridge, right?
Yes.
So the blank on a rifle cartridge, you don't get that. Like you look at a rifle cartridge and it's pretty pointy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the top of that part is the actual bullet, the rest of that is the casing, the primer, etc. On blanks, you don't get that pointy part. It's just a flat, basically it's like a wad of paper, right? So if you're looking at a blank rifle cartridge, it kind of looks like a tall, flat rectangle, more or less. Maybe it's a little rounded on top, right? It doesn't look like a traditional rifle round. On a pistol, with a pistol cartridge, you don't really have that pronounced, like, pointed bullet portion, like actual trajectory, round, right? So it's a little bit more difficult, at least for me, when I've, in my handling of firearms, which is somewhat there. I'm not going into my qualifications on firearms, but
just
needless to say that they're there.
Those listening and watching, the man knows his shit.
Yup.
The difference between a blank pistol cartridge and a live pistol cartridge is a lot more difficult to tell because you don't have the defining characteristics there's almost commonality in them, right? Like that flat, like in a, like, say look at a 9mm, for example, right? It's kind of got a flat oval, base at the top, just a standard 9. I'm not talking about a hollow point. I'm not talking about, anything like that. In that blank round, it's pretty similar because you still have to have like that padding there in order to be able to produce the weapon cycle, like in order to be able to cycle the cylinder in the weapon to create the noise that you want in order to mimic that weapon's firing function, right? So usually blank rounds have a different visual indicator on them, whether it's like a painted band or something. I mean, hell, you see that in regular rifle cartridges as well.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see, like, for example, the best example that I can give you is the FN57 or the FNP90, right? It uses a 5.7 by 28mm cartridge, but depending on which cartridge that you want to use, whether it's the civilian version, the standard law enforcement version, the armor-piercing version, they all have different bands at the bottom of the cartridge itself that are color-coded, right? One is green, one is red, one is white.
Mr. Producer, I have a question. I need to make sure I heard something correctly.
Go ahead.
You say 500 live rounds?
Yes.
Not to be confused with the 500 questions. I'm going to spoil your thing now.
No, that 500 rounds does raise literally 500 questions. Why the fuck were they live rounds on a goddamn fucking site?
They weren't all live, right? Some of them
they weren't.
Some of them were dummy rounds.
Yeah, some of them dummies, some of them live. But again,
why were they there to begin with? That's your smoking gun.
For the record, that was almost out of pity.
Now,
for those of you who may not know what a dummy round is, it's literally what it says on the tin. It is 100% inert, right? There's no primer, there's no bullet, there's no anything in it. It is just a round that is there to check weapon function.
No substance to it, just like my humor.
Yes.
I'll self-deprecate for once. Why not?
Yeah, the rounds were inert. Boy, that's one hell of a meme callback.
Damn, I feel old.
That's because we're all old. Brian, not so much, but the two of us.
You guys only have a couple of years on me. It's not too much.
They catch up, yo. They catch up before you know it.
Hence the gray hair.
Gray hair? I have no hair. What are you talking about? See, no hair. No hair at all.
Sure, Howie Mandel wannabe. Anywho, somewhat of a still evolving story. So if anything radically changes, wouldn't be surprised if I got History Divus Interruptus again.
Yeah.
It's happened twice on the run of the show already.
If you want to pull that up on screen, I just did some quick Googling real quick. Those are what appear to be 9mm blank rounds, if I had to take a guess, right? It pretty much it looks like a 9mm cartridge to me. If you want to,
I'm getting it there. There we go. It's there.
Take a look at the top of that, where the bullet portion would be, right?
Mm-hmm.
See that star thing, that crimping pattern. That's how you tell it's a blank, right? Every blank has that like crimped thing at the top there. But not everybody knows that, right? Like if you look at that and you compare that to a hollow point round, which I'll pull up what a hollow point.
Oh, now you have standards.
I will pull up what a hollow point round looks like, right?
Yeah, I have some. Not many, but some. I also have practices.
Here, you can put that up. Oh, come on. Copy image address. There we go. Now put that on screen.
Okay.
That's a 9mm hollow point round, right? And hollow points are considerably more dangerous than a standard round.
Oh, hey.
By the way.
Oh, hey, the point. It looks hollow. Hey, this is appropriately named. Hey, there's some people that don't have the visual here, so, you know, it's really like,
yeah,
you got the outer side of the bullet, but instead of the point, no, it's like
a perfect representation. If you were looking at Mercedes,
my point,
Mercedes,
the folks that I'm not saying this to shortchange the argument. I'm just saying that, you know, for those of us viewers who are listening rather than viewing, Google. I found these images in 30 seconds by Googling. You can come to the same conclusion that I have, right?
Right.
But if you look at the two images side by side, they're not that dissimilar from each other.
Now, perfect reference. Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. The roof. For the blanks, imagine a similar formation to when the roof is closed. For the hollow points, imagine for when it's open, when you're looking at the top. That's what the top of these bullets look like.
Or sort of like a pressurized dome that's been depressurized.
Well, and the reason why
ceiling comes down in the middle.
Yeah, and the reason why I say Mercedes-Benz Stadium is because the roof opens up like that camera lens. You get that similar pattern.
More about Atlanta sports on other podcasts on the W2M network.
But my point is, if you don't know about firearms,
you would not be able to distinguish.
One of those, until you guys said it.
One of those won't do a thing except cause a loud bang, right? The other one highly lethal. Because hollow point rounds fragment when they hit their target. They're intended to do more damage. Hollow point rounds don't. It's why a lot of police departments use hollow point ammunition, because it doesn't typically create through and through wounds, right? It's designed to hit the target, fragment inside the target, and prevent it from going through and hitting something behind the target. But by doing so, they're typically a lot more lethal.
Oh, shit.
What?
Other breaking news not related. I'll explain after. I'm not surprised, but holy shit.
Tonight's just one of those nights?
This has
apparently?
been one of those weeks.
But yeah, no.
no.
I think the armorer is, out of everybody in this situation, I think the armorer is first and foremost the most responsible person and the one who has contributed the most to the unfortunate tragedy that has happened here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think if anybody faces any sort of serious repercussion from this, I think it's the armorer. Does Alec Baldwin get out of this unscathed? Oh, no, not by a long shot. If anything, his reputation that has been kind of hanging on by a thread, I think it's gone, right? Like, in the context of media, I wouldn't be surprised if ABC looks for a new host, because Match Game has been doing well enough in the ratings that I don't think ABC wants to cancel it, right? I think they try to get a new host.
It's either
swinging this back around to game shows a little bit.
It's either they get a new host, or they at least temporarily see, all right, there's other pilots and stuff going on in the works. Could we potentially snatch one temporarily, or have something just in case?
Yeah. Or possibly they start like, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. Let's look at these pilots that we've gotten. Let's look at this stuff that we've said no to because we already have Match Game. And they go back to the drawing board, and now they're picking up pilots for stuff that they didn't want to before, because now they possibly have a gap in their schedule to fill that they want to keep with the game show, right?
Right. Keeping with the theme of the summer of fun and games. And that's why, again, these next 3 months, how things shake down, ABC is going to keep a huge, close eye on. Because it's like,
a close CBS eye on it? No, I don't deserve one for that. I admit it. But, hey,
actually,
that's
the one I would have
given him one for. ABC has gone very deep into that Fremantle library. They could very easily go back deep into that library and pull out some other ancient gem. But the only real comment that I have left to wrap this up from my perspective and input into this whole situation, I just found this quote from the, let me make sure I get the source right on this.
Yeah, and as
American Cinematographer magazine, their website. This is from an article July 18th, 2019, just generally attributed to their staff. Here's the quote. I never forget that if an actor makes a mistake, they get another take. But if a weapons handler makes a mistake, it'll make headlines in the morning. In this case, we got both.
Yep. Absolutely.
That part is my own addition.
Well, I mean, absolutely. And the only other reason why they go with those gems, and it's kind of a coin flip, if you find something, again, you've only got a couple of months to have it ready, go, and be to air. Doable, but it's a hell of a pinch.
There may also be a failed pilot out there that maybe didn't fail by a large margin that they might want to tweak. I mean, we get a lot of game show news from various sources. Shout outs to Buzzer Blog, where we get half our stuff from usually when it comes to breaking news. Those folks do a great job also.
They do.
But so much goes on in Hollywood and such. You can't track it all.
No, you can't. And that's why I say, if they're looking, I would think they're looking now. They're activating Plan B, Plan C, Plan D, whatever they need in case this indeed goes south.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% correct. I think that they've got to be looking for the backup plan right now, just in case this doesn't, go right.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think it's definitely a very unfortunate tragedy. Obviously,
of course.
It shouldn't have happened.
No. This was something that was completely avoidable.
Yeah. And I think that at the end of the day, I think the armor is the one that's responsible here, because it was the armor's job first and foremost to, render the firearms, for lack of a better term, safe to fire, right? Like
render them safe to fire, do the proper testing, check. There's a lot of things. And for someone like that, I don't think she specifically should have been the armorer at all. Now, if it was some sort of like apprentice thing with someone who was more experienced, I would have been fine with that. Completely.
From what I remember reading, and I'm going to let me do a quick Google search real quick here as well.
Said article also has a section titled "Experience Matters."
Ooh, excuse me.
Okay, we'll excuse you.
Oh, it was a burp. I don't know if it came through on the...
Kind of, sort of.
Apparently, she was I believe she's the son, the daughter of a famous movie armorer.
Hey, these are interesting times we live in. That actually could have been appropriate.
I mean, I get it, but
that unlikely. But yeah, wow. So I guess we'll just stay tuned and see if ABC has a blank to fill in on their schedule. Nah, I don't deserve one for that one. Anyways, I'm John Nielsen. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at JTN2002. And if you're a close personal friend, I'll get you the Facebook information. I think we're time for that time, yes?
Just about. I know Brian mentioned he's looking up one last thing.
That's right. There's other news.
Oh, we nearly forgot.
Told me that the Dare was taken by a certain other show on W2M Network that covers movies.
Indeed. For those of you, and as a matter of fact, they might still be going on. If you're looking at Mark Radelich's Facebook page, Radelich and Broadcasting, we have reached out to them, specifically me, being in W2M leadership. I'm like, hey, Mark, we have Life is Like a Game show. We got these things going on. I know you do, damn you, Hollywood. There's a movie that came out in 1994 by the name of Quiz Show. Had you heard of it? He said yes. Brief conversation. A review is in the works.
And he steps out on that note. Brian, where can people find you in the social media spectrum?
Here on W2M Network.
I accidentally hit the refresh button.
Yeah, no, sorry. So apparently, I thought I read it somewhere, and I can't confirm it right now. I don't want to spend too much time, but I did find something interesting. Apparently, the armorer's landlord, she's somewhat local to Arizona. or she's in Arizona. I guess you kind of call that a little bit local, right? Maybe, sort of,
ish.
Apparently, her landlady is kicking her out.
Issues on top of issues on top of issues.
Yeah.
We've all got stuff going on, but when it comes time to focus on a very important job, you focus on a very important job.
Yeah.
Otherwise, a sayonara mob is literally coming for you.
Black suits and all.
But no, folks can find me here on the W2M network. Life is Like a Game Show, which is this show. I don't know why I'm plugging us. Maybe because I want to plug us, No, you can also
look, if anybody's doing anything with those kind of plugs around here, okay? Again, you seek permission for stuff like that. You got to be very careful, very gentle.
Hey, the only plugs you're usually going to have me dealing with are A and B type electrical.
So yeah, I could be found hosting the League to the Max podcast or whatever here on W2M Network. You can also find me on Twitter at the Andesian. Please don't send me your hate tweets, but I will take tweet mail. Not to be confused with Craig Ferguson.
Don't try to go and hustle people. Come on now.
And
go ahead, you earned that one. Go ahead, you earned it.
Sometimes
you gotta review that show though.
I'm gonna go ahead and end it here because if I don't, I'm liable to throw bottles and strangle people.
But there's one more thing that we do have to talk about that we nearly forgot to mention. The day that we initially recorded this, even though we're past midnight on the East Coast, it was a very solemn and unfortunately somber day in the game show world, as October 28th, 2003, we lost one of the great icons, the man with the voice, the dulcet tones, with the suits, an incredible budget, well used. But if you were growing up like when we did, he was the first voice you heard, 11 a.m. Eastern, on your CBS stations.
The gold standard in game show announcers.
Mr. Rod Roddy, may you continue to rest in peace, good sir. We still miss you. And on that note, you can find me on Twitter at Squid Sports Head. You can find me, Dr. Manhattan, on Leagues to the Max or whatever. Soccer to the Max, where we're going to have big news to cover Sunday night. The kickoff with Harry. Hopefully he will be back from his assignment. We're scheduled to go tomorrow night. Stay tuned for that one. We got other big news to cover. And I'm going to have even more big news to try to cover and decipher personally off the air. But, and especially for Rod, I'm not going to mention all the big spiel, but if you slide in my DMs on Twitter, you know what to do. And also with the show Twitter, if you happen to be viewing us there, thank you very much. At W2M LiLaGS, LiLaGS. And since I am closing this show, I'm not going to tell you to have, wait,
no. Have your armorers who can't be there at the filming spayed and neutered. By the way, also check out the show Twitter after next week, because you, if you spot it and respond in time, have a chance to vote on what game show we review next after the second part of the 21 Deep Dive. Now you may close out the show.
Well,
You have been listening to Life is Like a Game Show, a presentation of the W2M Network. You can find us online at W2Mnet. I can't. God damn it, viewer.
I was crossing my fingers rooting for you. I was crossing my fingers rooting for you.
I can't do it when you're sitting there crossing your fingers like, don't fuck up, don't fuck up.
No,
Don't fuck up.
No, not don't fuck up. Don't fuck up. It's like, he can do it. You can do it. Come on. I gotcha.
Yes, this has been a presentation of Life is Like a Game Show here on the W2M Network. You can find us online on your favorite podcast platform of choice. Wow, I'm under pressure now. We've got Google, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, Podbean, Castbox. Oh, I can't remember them all.
Apple Pods.
I said that.
Google Pods.
I said
iHeartRadio.
I forgot the iHeartRadio.
Hey, guess what?
Spotify is here.
And if you wish to consume us visually, you can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
YouTube W2M Network, please subscribe. We got more bigger plans now that we got a little something extra in the books. Excuse me. Facebook, W2M Network, twitch.tv/W2Mnet. Be sure to follow us there. We're really working hard so we can get big things when we get that affiliate status. Yeah, folks, sometimes life really is like a game show. We'll see you next week.
I have one more thing to say to close out the episode, right?
Oh, no. You did this last week, John. Mr. Oh, I can't end it in 45 minutes, so don't you sit there and throw.
We're at hour 7. We're good.
I just got one last thing to say, right? Harry Broadhurst will not be seen tonight. We hope you enjoyed this W2Mnet feature presentation.
See you next week, everybody.